Today I'm with Professor Randy Piccarelli discussing the increasing gap between women and men's graduation rate.
Thank you so much for having me.
So my first question is, among the 23 Cal State campuses, why are women graduating at a rate 5 to 8% higher than men?
I don't think that statistic is a particular anomaly to Cal State Northridge or to any of the campuses in the CSU. It's kind of a national average, actually, that about 60%, upwards of 60% of college graduates are female now. And if the question is why, I think there are two things we need to consider. One is what is happening economically to kind of the job market that's available, and the other has to do with long-term economic prospects and the investment that college takes.
So this figure also shows that the gap is just increasing. What do you think about that, and what do we do about it?
I think that something's going to have to shift. I think there are some really interesting things to look at. First of all, in terms of what we do about it, my background is in gender, and I think that education has become very feminized, meaning that to some degree, men are taught by women for most of their lives until they get to college. So I think we need more male instructors and role models at lower levels of education in order to inspire men, or boys, if you will, toward the educational process in the long haul. I read something recently that I shared with my gender students, which is the biggest determinant of a man's academic success is also a male role model in the home. And so I think, whatever happens outside of the home always trails back to what is happening inside the home. So I think that men and boys also need strong mentors, coaches, father figures, or, masculine and male role models in their lives to support their academic achievements. And then lastly, I think that, to some degree, the way that we teach students is a very feminized way of teaching. Women succeed in this environment really well because we're told to sit down, to be quiet, to passively receive an education, to take notes. And for boys and men who are often kinesthetic or more active in their learning experience, this environment might not be conducive to how they learn. So I think there are a lot of things to look at. We can't talk about gender without talking about class and race and sexuality. When I teach courses and this kind of stuff, we always say that all of those ideas are intersected, privilege and disadvantage. I don't know specifically, I'm kind of not armed with the statistics or the information, but I would suggest, first of all, there's an educational gap between ethnic groups, if you will, and particular minority groups, African Americans and Latino Americans, are going to college much less than white Americans, period. I would imagine in particular minority groups that gap has in fact increased, and I'm speculating, but I would imagine, for example, in the African American community, where men are often not directed to go to college, but to earn money as quickly as possible to become economically viable in order to have a sense of power, perhaps legitimate power that hasn't been offered to them in other arenas of life.
Thank you so much again for joining us today.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for asking me.